The Zika virus group, introduction to the Zika virus. So it was first discovered in 1947 in the Zika forest of Uganda. And between then and 2007, there's only been about 14 documented cases of it in humans. Some experts think that the disease didn't spread among humans because the mosquitoes that transmit the virus are not adapted to human environments. So they mostly just stayed where there were monkeys and spread it around monkeys in Africa. But there is evidence that it has been found between that time period of when it was discovered to 2007 in Africa and Asia. But the theory is that the locals kind of developed a immunity to the virus, and that's why there wasn't any major breakouts between that period. But sometime in 2013, the virus began spreading widely in the Western Hemisphere. Its presence wasn't confirmed until May of 2015 when it swept across Brazil. And they didn't really know what it was at that time, so they kind of just deemed it a mystery disease. And then finally, they were able to identify it as Zika. The outbreak was linked to an overwhelming number of visitors that flooded Brazil for the World Cup in 2014. The people, and then also because the mosquitoes that carry the virus live and are able to survive in the climate in Brazil. And as you can see on like the image below, just before the World Cup, it was detected in 2013 in French Polynesia. So it is rumored that the soccer team from Tahiti actually brought it from French Polynesia to Brazil in the World Cup. But in 2018, there was no local mosquito-borne Zika virus transmissions within the United States. However, in 2016, there were 224 confirmed cases that were acquired from local mosquitoes. So thankfully, the prevalence of this disease in the US is declining. In most cases that appear now are brought to the US from travel to other countries where the disease is present, and those mosquitoes that carry the disease are able to survive. So that's mostly like warm, humid countries that are close to sea level. And CDC officials say that it's unlikely for a major outbreak to spread throughout the mainland United States. The most serious concern with the Zika virus is its effect on pregnant women and their unborn children. When a pregnant woman contracts the disease, her baby becomes at risk for developing microcephaly, which also comes with other birth defects. And microcephaly is a disease that causes a child to be born with a significantly smaller head than usual, which also comes with accompanying brain damage. And then adults are rarely significantly affected by the Zika virus, but in rare cases, they do contract Guillain-Barré syndrome, which causes temporary paralysis. And so even though we may not have all the answers to the Zika virus, there's still a lot that we do know.
All right, so for the etiology of the Zika virus, its genus is the flavivirus, shape is an icosahedral, and it's enveloped, and its genome is a single strand of positive sense RNA.
Replication process. It contains 3 structural proteins, the capsid, the precursor membrane, and the envelope. In order to replicate, the Zika virus will essentially just inject into the host membrane, and then it's received by certain receptors and viral DNA is released into the host cell. And this RNA will undergo protein synthesis or translation coding for an RNA replicase. This whole process will form a double-stranded replicative form of the virus RNA. So it's then sent to the endoplasmic reticulum or the ER to be put together and form a bunch of like these new Zika viruses. And those are expelled out of the host cell through the Golgi apparatus. And the new Zika viruses go on to repeat this process in the other host cells.
So the Zika virus is an emerging disease, so there's not a lot of like concrete science behind it. So because of this, the true reservoir for the disease is not completely known. But based on what we do know and what we have observed, it's thought that non-human and human primates are thought to be the most likely reservoir for the Zika virus. And when an outbreak does occur, it's an anthropogenic spread of the disease takes place. And so this means that the disease is carried by humans, and it's spread from human to human by mosquitoes through the vector. And in the case of Zika virus, that vector is mosquitoes.
There are two primary ways that the Zika virus is transmitted, and as previously mentioned, the first would be through vector-borne transmission, and then the second is through non-vector-borne transmission. The most common vectors are the Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. However, some studies have shown that Aedes albopictus mosquitoes from the United States are most susceptible to the transferring virus, but the Aedes aegypti have shown to transfer the virus more efficiently. So they are the most common mosquitoes to transfer this disease. The female mosquitoes will bite into the infected person and then transfer that blood into them during the blood feeding, and then the next time they bite another person, it will transfer that virus back into a new person. So that's how it would keep spreading. The other possible ways of transmission are not through vectors. Some of these ways include from mother to child infection, in pregnancy, sexual transmission, and laboratory contamination. But compared to the vectors, the Aedes mosquitoes, these non-vector borne forms of transmission are very less common.
Most of the signs and the symptoms for the Zika virus are non-specific, meaning when you become infected, they're going to just mimic other types of infections, such as like dengue fever or malaria or yellow fever. Many of the people who become infected will only have mild signs and symptoms that won't last for more than like a week or so. Some of the most common signs of the Zika virus include fever, rash, and red eyes. And some of the symptoms include headache and joint pain, fatigue, muscle pain. So all those don't sound too bad, but like we said before, what makes Zika virus so dangerous is that threat to an unborn fetus. It has the potential to cause birth defects.
All right, prevention for the Zika virus. So there are no vaccines currently available. So if you're pregnant, and since the biggest risk is to the fetus, pregnant women want to avoid traveling to places with known Zika outbreaks. You want to make sure that you look around your home and that there are no breeding grounds for mosquitoes. You want to use insect repellent. You want to put up mosquito netting around your windows and doors, and if you're sleeping outside, around like your living area. And make sure that you're just aware when mosquitoes are going to be out, that you wear protective clothing like long sleeves or mosquito jackets.
As of right now, there's no specific medicines or vaccines, so you just have to manage the signs and symptoms. You take Tylenol and get plenty of rest and drink fluids to stay hydrated. It sounds terrible, but you just kind of have to wait for the virus to pass and run its course.
Scientists around the world are trying to understand this disease and why it may be causing these birth defects, while other scientists are trying to develop a vaccine, as well as more scientists that are hoping to develop an antiviral drug to help treat patients. But they are optimistic to uncovering more about the disease because there are so many scientists that are working and studying this Zika virus.